how can I be on social media but not of social media? That's the question I've been asking myself a lot recently. Most people I know, including myself, largely have a pretty dysfunctional or unhealthy relationship with social media. Most people say they wish they didn't have to have it, but they kind of just have to. And I feel that. To some degree, social media and smartphones are something that we have to have these days. And I got social media when I was 9 and a smartphone when I was 14. 25 now, so that's a pretty long time to have these things. And I got them at very formative years. And I reached a point a couple of years ago where I just had to say that was enough. So about a year and a half ago I got this Nokia brick phone, and those who are following my Instagram from the beginning, this was one of the earliest videos I made, was talking about my relationship with my smartphone and why I was using a brick phone. I used that for about 3 or 4 months. And my time away from social media and smartphones was some of the most profound times of my life. For the first time in my life, I found what I regard as myself. My own opinions, my own authentic expression. It was the first time in my life that I didn't feel as if I was basing my view on the world on loads of snippets of information I was seeing on the internet. This was powerful. I suddenly wasn't in my own way. I wasn't hung up on tiny decisions. I didn't speak so negatively to myself. And this chronic social media use, which that's the way how I had been engaging with social media for the past 15 years, that kind of chronic usage left me like torn and always feeling like I was wrong. Because social media is such a polarizing place. I can see one video with expressing feelings on one topic, and then the next video can be the exact same topic but the polarizing reason. And both seem like they've got fairly valid points sometimes. So then after doing that for hours and hours a day, I'm like, well, I don't know what I believe in anymore. So over the years and the weeks and the months of being on these platforms, my sense of self gets derived by the little snippets of information I'm receiving online, as opposed from my own idea of self or my own sense of self. So I learned through that process of getting rid of my smartphone that if I want to connect to myself, I have to get off this constant treadmill of information overload. It seems in some way that more information leads to having a clearer understanding of the world. That's quite an intellectual way of looking at it. What I now feel is that I innately, intuitively know how I feel about the world, and by getting still, I connect with that voice. I connect with that deepest part of me. So through those 3 or 4 months away from my smartphone, I learned that if I want to connect with myself, and if I want to connect with what I regard as my authentic message, my why, or whatever that means, it's through the removal of information rather than through the addition of information, most of the time. But now we're a year on, and I've been back on a smartphone for, just over a year now. And largely my habits have gone back to the same place. Chronic scrolling, kind of wishing I didn't have it, not really sure why I'm on social media again. That's a good B. Still knowing why I'm on social media, but just really letting it use me, consuming way more than I'm creating. It's a really chunky bee. It's come to say hello. took me a while to decide that coming back onto social media was the thing I wanted to do. But it's where people are. So that is one of the best places to share your message and to speak from the heart. And the challenge is, can you do that without becoming absorbed by that platform? Because I think this is a really important distinction. The more time I spend on social media, the more I'm creating as a response to what I'm seeing, rather than creating from an authentic place. Social media being on there largely makes me feel angry a lot of the time. And it can orientate me to that place of anger. And then I start creating from that angry place. And I don't think creating from an angry place or a place of scarcity is actually a helpful thing to put into the social media world right now. And because of that, I had a lot of resistance to coming back onto social media. I was like, I don't know how you could be there without adding to the piles of toxicity and negativity that we see. But for some reason, something got me to do it. And it was great for a while I was still on my Nokia. And then eventually the platform got the better of me. The excitement of getting loads of followers and everyone watching my videos and the comments, and really absorbs me. And then it's in the last few months again that I've really started to change my relationship with social media, and change my relationship more importantly with this balance between creation and consumption, not just in social media. Because I hear a lot of people talk about this idea of like, oh, well, the way to kind of get over the social media addictions is to create more than you consume. But in a weird way, if you're just creating for social media, you're just adding, if all you're doing is being driven by creation and then just putting it on the internet, you're just adding more things for other people to watch. And if they're not of much value and they're not really helping people, or you're not speaking from the heart, in my opinion, is there much point doing that? So I think this balance between this creation and consumption balance is more applicable to my wider lifestyle than just specifically social media. There's lots of things that are creative. You know, cooking a meal is creative. Making a video is creative. Having a conversation with someone is creative. Anything that is turning nothing into something or rearranging loads of things into one thing is a creative act. For example, making yourself breakfast from a recipe you've never made before is a creative act, which obviously ends in consumption because you then eat it. But that is a creative pursuit over just driving to a place to get breakfast. Not that I have anything against that. I also love driving to get breakfast, but it's the balance. It's like, how much of my day is spent thinking about where my next input is versus how much of my day is spent thinking about what I'm going to make. You know, exercise to me is creation, nothing to something. And as I've learned to get this healthier balance between creation and consumption, I think that's impacted my social media time as well. I personally feel that it is my responsibility that if I'm going to show up on these platforms, which have so much hate and toxicity and negativity on them, then I need to be sharing an authentic, loving message. If I'm adding more hate, more fear, there's no point in me being there, basically. That's how I feel. So that means I need to be in constant communication with my heart and my authentic voice. As soon as that gets clouded by lots of external things, that's going to decrease my ability to speak from the heart, and therefore I'm going to be putting out a more diluted message onto the internet, which I don't think is helpful. So this way to find the balance of creation and consumption is like, this way to find the balance of how do I show up on social media with integrity is about how do I find ways that allow the pond of my mind to settle before I start creating, so I can be creating from a loving place. So now I'm more dedicated to that than creation itself, at least for social media. So instead of like trying to sit down and get really angry about something and then write from that kind of fiery place, my day is spent things like exercising, running, walking the dog, cleaning the house, maintenance things, and that drops me into a state of of more subtle creation, where I'm not really creating from that angry place anymore. And the kind of social media landscape that I'd like to see is everyone bringing intentionality and heart to whatever they're sharing, as opposed from just for sharing for views or whatever. And so now let's talk about how I do that, because it's been a long journey, it's been a long road. So where I'm at right now, and this is going to be specific to me, and it may change again. I split my week in half. Monday to Thursday I'm on social media. Friday to Sunday I'm off social media. Monday morning I download Instagram on my phone. I post on a Monday generally and a Thursday. Thursday afternoon I have a therapy session. That represents the midway point between week Seth and weekend Seth. I get everything I need to do, everything done I need to do on social media Monday to Thursday. Friday, I can still go on social media on my laptop, but on the Thursday after my therapy session, I delete the app off my phone, and then on Friday I can still use social media on my laptop to tie off loose ends for the weekend, and then Saturday, Sunday, nothing, which means that I'm putting aside every week a chunk of time. That means I'm not thinking about social media, and I'm not becoming, my mind and opinions aren't being pulled in every single direction by the things I'm viewing on social media, that I give myself time for the pond of my mind to settle. And that has done wonders for my creativity and my ability to show up in a loving way in other areas of my life. Other than that, I don't go on screens in the evening from about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I do that. I've programmed my phone to turn red if I tap that button 3 times. So in the evening I'm dealing with like a red screen, better for my eyes. And whatever I used to do in the evening, emails wise, computer wise, work wise, that was lots of blue light, I now wind down more slowly in the evening, which means that light isn't keeping me awake in the evening. I'm then in bed far earlier because I haven't thrown my circadian rhythm out, and then I wake up much earlier. I wake up at 5 or 6 or something, and then do all the things I would have done the previous night but in the morning, which sets me up for the day quite well. And in this age of so much consumption and information consumption, I really feel for me there are only 2 ways that I can be on social media if I'm going to keep showing up with integrity and intention. I either have to completely abstain from it, which I did with the Nokia. It was great, but that really, I couldn't be part of the modern world at that point. You know, there were so many things I had to say no to with not having a smartphone and social media. And the other way is to have incredibly firm boundaries with my social media usage, because I believe that the way we use social media is like foundational to how you thrive in this world. I think chronic social media usage is so insidious, but we don't realize it, and it impacts us way more than we realize. I think it impacts me way more than I realized, that's for sure. It completely disconnected me with my sense of self and my message and my sense of safety within myself. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like, when I wasn't on those platforms for like weeks at a time, it takes a few days to kind of come off it, but for weeks at a time, I'm like, oh my God, finally I can breathe again. I don't feel like everything I'm doing is wrong. So that's it. I want to put things from the real physical, natural world into the digital world. I want to be on social media, but not of social media. However, the more time I spend in the social media world, suddenly then I'm responding to this polarizing digital space, as opposed from just dropping in bits of creation from the external world. So if there's anything you get from this video, it's like, live in the real world. Don't live there. But if you have a message to share, drop that message into these social media platforms for other people to hear and to see. And if you've never experienced any time away from social media or a smartphone and you're considering getting a Nokia or deleting your accounts or anything like that, if you have the space and the time, do it. I really, really recommend it. It was one of the best things I ever did as a young person in 2024. So that's the video, I think. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to speak about.